Hey, welcome to your reading. Let's jump right into it. Start the timer. And all right. Okay, so super interesting chart. Let me just make sure your last name isn't showing. Okay. Let's jump right in. So very interesting chart. As I told you privately, it's extremely similar to my own. So let's go ahead and share the screen. So I don't know why my computer just keeps, see how you can't really see the bottom here? It just keeps, the format just keeps changing. Like it was good yesterday to where it like fit the page, and now it's too big. I didn't do anything. I have no idea what to do. If anyone knows how to adjust that on Windows, let me know. So yeah, super interesting. Leo rising with the sun in the 8th house, all about that. Moon in Aries in the 9th house. I have a Sag moon, but 9th house is Sag. And then also Venus and Mars in Aquarius. I have the same thing. But there's little differences, right? Like the Mars is conjunct Saturn. And yeah, Pluto in the 4th house. I have that too. Wow, crazy how much we have in common. And but yeah, the rest is pretty much different. Besides, I also have Neptune and Uranus in the 6th. But yeah, that's like maybe not close to like half, and then lots of aspects too. Let me pop open that grid. So you got Moon squaring Uranus, squaring Neptune. The nodes squaring the Moon, the nodes squaring Mercury, Venus squaring Pluto. I had that also. We're not even more in the same year, which is usually what this would look like. Of course, Saturn and Mars together. So lots of interesting stuff. All right. Okay, so to start off, Pisces sun in the 8th house. What does that mean? And how does that relate to Aries Moon in the 9th house? Well, simply put, Pisces, in Leo rising. So you're Leo rising, right? So whenever someone's Leo rising, it makes it so the sun rules their chart. So they have this very like charismatic personality. It's very, very good for like I don't want to say like fame. It's very good for success and leadership in general. Of course, Leo is associated with fame in some respect, but also just it likes to shine. It's a very also gregarious energy. It's a fixed fire, so it's someone who's able to kind of start in with your Aries moon. It's going to work really, really well to those two together, where you're able to start things and follow through, right? So like the fire in you like starts, okay, I have this idea, I want to say this, or I want to do this, I want to do that, and then the fixed Leo energy, at least if you have because Leo rule, it's the heart of the lion. As long as you really have passion for what you're doing, you can really follow through on it. So as I said, Leo rising, it makes the sun super important. So whatever sun that or house the sun's in, which is the 8th house, is one where you're going to shine. And the interesting thing about that is that the 8th house is a very, very dark, not dark in a bad way, but it's ruled by Scorpio. It's a house of the esoteric, occult, death, rebirth, and transformation, other people's resources. The list goes on and on. So and it's in Pisces. So this is definitely a chart of someone who like could be interested in the esoteric, could be interested in something like psychology. There's definitely a deep passion to get beneath the veil and to get beneath the surface of what is shown, and to really want to dive into the mysteries of life. So, you know, you'll probably, you know, be like, it also gives like a very like obsessive, and I mean that in a good way, like energy. Like when you find something you're into, it's like nothing can really stop you, right? Also, you know, with this placement, it's a built-in kind of lie detector energy. And, you know, having so much in common, you know, with me, I obviously see a lot of myself, but there are lots of differences, right? So one of the big ones right off the bat is the fact that you have Chiron rising. So even though you're a Leo rising, people who have Chiron rising, they tend to, I guess you could say, like, have a level, you know, Chiron is like the, and let me put my face back on right now. So Chiron is the wounded healer, right? So when you have it conjunct your ascendant, it can make it so you are almost, one second, turn my noise, everything going away. It can make it so you are basically carrying some of that energy externally. So there can be like wounds, spiritual wounds that have like a physical component, but at the same time, and my mom has this, by the way. My mom's like, you know, she had like a long career with like acupuncture and also like real estate, which is like completely different part of her chart, but like, you know, she definitely did like shamanism and stuff like that. So it definitely makes you seem like someone who's a healer, right? And I would imagine with Leo, the two would mix in a very interesting way, where you'd come off as someone who is at the same time very, very charismatic, you know, dare I say masculine, right? In the sense of like, it's Leo, right? It's a very masculine energy, but also very, very empathetic. And that empathy, so this is actually in my book, like, yeah, you could speak about how Chiron rising can make someone seem like they're like sad, like they have like wounds, and like it's like easier for other people to see. They're less like, they're, you know, kind of wearing those on you know, on the face and stuff like that. But also, you know, it can kind of give the energy of someone who's like a leader and a healer, right? So but one of the things with this, the karma with some of this is that it can make it so the Leo rising, you know, when they're young, they have, and it really depends on like your family. And I think you got the follow up, so we can talk about this too. And I hope, yeah, I'm pretty positive. I think 90% people get my readings with follow up, so I'm pretty sure you did. But yeah, so people who have this type of rising, this type of chart, they are naturally like, they're very like, especially with your Aquarius energy, right? We have everything, by the way, in common. Like literally every personal planet besides the moon we have in common. But your moon is in freaking Aries, mine's in Sag, which are so close. And to top it all off, your moon's in the 9th house, the house of Sagittarius. So it's almost like your moon is like Aries / Sag. So we have like literally, like, it's gonna be probably pretty trippy when we talk. Like, you know, there's gonna be a lot in common. The karmic stuff is a little bit less in common, but yeah, there's a lot in common. But as I was saying, so you might come off, especially when young, right? Very entrepreneurial, very like beat to the beat of your own drum, like not someone who's just following, right? And you know, maybe as a youngster you're like kind of a prankster, or someone who maybe got into a little bit of trouble, someone who just loved to have fun, you know, like just like the Leo rising with the Aries moon. It's just like very, very adventurous, very fun loving. And then you add Pisces to that, and it gives this real sweetness. This I'm not talking about myself, but like literally, like I'm trying to like forget my own chart and just say like what I would say about it being as objective. But it's just like what the reality is, right? But with that said, the Chiron here, and you do have Pluto in the 4th house, right? I have that too. So that indicates that maybe there was some trauma in your childhood, right? And is it connected to the nodes? I don't think so. No. But basically, like, so there could have been some like trauma in your childhood. It doesn't have to be like big shit, but just like a very like dysfunctional potential childhood, or like something that whether it was an actual trauma or not. Being a Pisces, you're very sensitive, so you could have experienced something as a trauma that your sibling who like lived in the exact same situation as you didn't experience. It's really trippy, right? It's very trauma is very subjective. But what I was getting at, right, is that there's that energy you have, right, of just like, it's this massive aura. It's this energy of being a leader, right? But like, you're way more sensitive than people will think you are, right? And it can be very difficult for you. So I'm speaking about like more like when you were young, right? To understand this Pisces side of yourself, this deep emotional side, because you have all these really masculine energies, right, that dominate your chart. But then there's this other part of you that is super empathetic to like the energies around you and takes so much in. And it's so difficult to be around like you have to really watch out for the energy vampires and all these things associated with Pisces, the dreamer without form, or that doesn't give form to things, this endless imagination, right? So when you're a Leo rising with Chiron there, that can speak about how someone or something or some forces or some energy tried to like shut that out of you, shut you down in that way when you were young, and it could have created this. You're born in 92, so your Saturn return is like, is it now? Where's your Saturn? It's yeah, your Saturn return is literally happening. Interesting. I would definitely also suggest we can talk about it later, but I do current astrology reports too, and I have like a current astrology plus Saturn return reading I do, and I always recommend people get those because there's like a whole chart you can create for the Saturn return. But just let me know about that if you're interested in it. Let me speak. But anyways, basically like what I'm saying is that this is the energy of someone that might be so expansive, so like have so much, I don't want to use the word swag, but just like so positive, so optimistic that people get jealous, and then that person, because they're Pisces, and being a Pisces makes it hard for you to understand and really truly see yourself. It can create self-esteem issues, and it can create, but like as a Leo rising, typically Leo risings don't show that, right? They're more like proud and confident externally and stuff. But with Chiron there, that could be like some force, some person, whatever it was, that almost put this this doubt within you, right? That you had, and that was like your big karma was to really find who you are, right? And sometimes that can be like, I guess, like shown. The way it can be like shown in everyday life is overdoing things, overcompensation, stuff of that nature, right? Like overdoing the Leo. But at its best, astrology, there's always like the lower energy of everything and the higher energy. It's meant to turn you into someone who's a healer and someone who like realizes these real empathetic Piscean gifts, and is there for humanity, right? And definitely, in this lifetime, you're meant to take like public risks and really be of service, with your North Node in Virgo, Capricorn. That's like in the 6th house. That's like in your South Node in Cancer in the 12th. To me, that's like the ultimate like double water South Node, double Earth North Node. Is that you're really here in this lifetime? You're here to really discover to get back with the material, right? To figure out the routine, to get out of like dreamland and not taking responsibility. In this life, you're really meant to take all of these like mystical, like these past life mystical water energy kind of things that and that you've carried into this lifetime, right? Your soul remembers all this stuff you've learned, the tendencies you have, the compassion, and to put it into something tangible that you can touch, whether it's, you know, having like a solid routine, right? Something, you know, and it's tough when you lack earth. I'm right there with you, man. Like, it's tough to have that consistency, but the best way to deal with it, you know, when you lack earth, it means that I always think of earth as that force. It's like, you know, when you go on a nice hike, I'm going on one tomorrow for the first time in a long time. It's like you feel that real essence of like feeling connected to nature, connected to yourself, to your body, feeling very grounded. That's like what people who have like lots of earth, they tend to like they can count on themselves to wake up day after day. I'm not saying they're all like this, but and relatively be kind of close to like the version they were the day before, the day before, the day before. People who lack that can lack that, and they really need to go the extra mile to find that balance, that internal balance, or they can just go float like a freaking hot air balloon. You know, the Pisces can go to dreamland. It can be very escapist, right? And also, eighth house Pisces can make someone very secretive about their escapism per se, right? About all kinds of stuff, right? It's a very secretive like energy. Eighth house is Scorpio, right? So it's like combined with Pisces, it's ultra empathy, and also it's someone who can like potentially go away from time to time, right? I'm sure I know you follow me and stuff. I'm not sure like how closely or whatever, like if you like how long you've been following me. I literally like don't know. But like I'm horrible at, I don't know if you've seen any of my stories, basically like I'm horrible at answering messages, like because that's like a very typical Pisces thing, is that Pisces like to disconnect from the material world, and they're so used to like this better ideal kind of heavenly, like divine Neptunian realm, right? And they're here on this earth where everything's fucked up, or not everything, but like a lot of things are fucked up, imperfect, and they have such intense empathy, whether it's for animals, whether it's for the suffering of everyone, and just like the all the messed up things that happen. They can feel very powerless. That, you know, especially in the Leo, that can be someone who can be a little bit like they feel powerful but powerless, and that can kind of lead to like escapism and a certain depression of nihilism. But you know, the big lesson is to whatever it is that's scaring you, right? Whatever fear it is, whether like I wrote in my book, which would probably be very trippy for you to read because we have such similar charts. I wrote about how overcoming the fear of death was like the most important thing for me after like all the issues I had with drugs, with Xanax, right? And yeah, so it's kind of like about like confronting your fears. And with the eighth house in this situation, right, that's death, rebirth, transformation. So that makes one go, and I can definitely vouch for this. It can make one go within their one life, right? As having, it's almost like you've lived like tons of different lives. Like you can like split up your lives into like these really intense eras, where you look back on that part, like maybe the old you, maybe you can like split into 4 at this point, or 3, I don't know, 5, I don't know. And literally that older version feels like someone from a movie. It doesn't even feel like you, which is like when I think about that for myself, it's just trippy, you know? So like the evolution you make in one lifetime is so much more. Like, I don't want to compare to other people, but it's like some people stay relatively the same. They don't really grow that much. You can grow so much because of the intense experiences you go through, and just the overall karma, especially with the Chiron too. You know, that's gonna really push one into the healing, and having the healing being like a huge part of like your personality, you know, and the things we talk about, and spirituality and stuff. But it's just mega important, and you go through these massive evolutions, and it's just like the snake shedding the skin. So the whole thing of death of a part of you, allowing, you know, a part of you that is no longer needed, or whether it's a part of you, an environment you're from, right? or an environment that you take part in, people, other people, especially relationships, like allowing whatever is not serving your higher good to go. So yeah, it's super interesting. Also 8th house, sun can have to do with benefiting from other people's resources. So like, 8th house people can like do very good in jobs, like let's say like finance or something, where you're like managing someone else's resources. And they can also benefit from marriage, and or inheritances, stuff of that nature. It's not all the time, obviously. Not everyone, the 8th house sun gets a massive inheritance, but they can benefit from other people's resources. So, okay, how does that relate to your moon in Aries, right? So Aries moon in the 9th house, that is basically like Aries moon people, they have this emotional need to be the commander of their own ship. Very, very independent, very feisty also. It can be very impulsive. There can be anger issues as well. It's Aries is the first sign. So your sun is the last sign. Your moon is the first sign, right? So there's one part of you that's like this very old soul, very, very mature, almost like this grandpa energy, right? But then there's the part of you that people probably see more, which is way more youthful. So that can kind of feel a little bit, I don't know. I would love to get your take on that, but it can be a little bit uncomfortable when there's like these two parts of you, right? Where there's like the fire part, the Leo / Aries part, and then there's like, and you can even say the Aquarius, definitely say the Aquarius. Yeah, I'd say the Aquarius feeds into the Aries part because it's sextiles Aries, and it's basically like the Pisces is kind of like alone, but it's your sun sign, right? All the other forces are masculine. The only feminine part of your chart, because all air and all fire is masculine. Water, earth are feminine. The only feminine is your sun. And it's like the core, the core, your identity, the core essence of who you are. So yeah, with Aries moon, I mean, obviously like super independent, emotional need for action. You'll be very, you'll love a good challenge, especially when under stress. You'll want to push yourself in whatever it is, whether it's sports or your work, your passion. And the fact that you have Leo rising, it makes you a very passionate person. Speaking of passion, so you'll probably have many different interests, many different things. Like while some people struggle to like find like one thing that they're really, really interested in, someone Leo rising can have so many different passions. So yeah, it's definitely like a go-getter energy, the Aries moon. And your moon ruled by Mars, like I said before, with your Mercury there, it can be combative, and it can kind of like get one in trouble if they're too impulsive, and especially when you're like a really, really sensitive Pisces connecting the sun and the moon. Imagine that, like, boom, you react to something, especially when young, right? You react to something impulsively, you're not really happy about how you reacted, and then the Pisces, just because it just feels so much, takes a ton of shame from it, right? So that can like be really, really difficult, because Pisces will like, they really have they really can like guilt trip themselves and make themselves feel shame, even if the shame is not theirs. And another thing that's interesting about this, about like just your overall energy I'm seeing, is so the fire part will be very open to new experiences, right? It'll be very extroverted. But then the water Pisces part is going to have a big need for being alone, right? And that's also something that the Aquarius has, especially in like in relationships, is like a need for space. But it's also very social. It's kind of push and pull. But you might, in being someone who's not like a, like everything in Pisces or Cancer, a very fiery Pisces, you might have lots of external experiences with people and bring in like energy vampire types. And the Pisces can have lots of issues with creating boundaries and confrontation. So that can be like a big karmic like lesson letting go of like toxic people, right? Because toxic people will feel unconsciously, will feel that compassionate Pisces part of you, which sees the potential and the good in everyone, right? And you know, they may take advantage of it. But you know, the Saturn return for you is definitely, especially with respect to relationships, like romantic relationships, it's going to be, you know, it's a time now where you're going to start to really experience this massive, massive, massive change. Not to say that you know, that it wasn't good before. I'm just saying that like it's in the 7th house of Saturn. So yeah. But those two could be connected, right? The part that's very much engaged in having issues with boundaries, and the part that gets in relationships. Because you know, with your relationship energies, right, they're all in Aquarius, but the Saturn is conjunct the Mars, and it's pretty much it's close enough to be conjunct the Venus too, and there's Black Moon Lilith there. So your 7th house ruled by Aquarius with Uranus in the 6th. Very karmic relationships. Venus square Pluto, that is, I struggled so much with that. 1 second, I'm gonna go get a sip of coffee. You can still hear me. So that is the like literally the 1 sec. Okay, so that is literally the aspect that I struggled with my entire life, by far the most. And it just makes it really hard, especially when you're a sensitive Pisces, to have relationships that are chill, to have relationships that are where you're not like loving too hard, and there can be like definitely like obsession, and you have it like 1 degree away, so it's very, very tight. Basically Pluto represents, in your case, in your 4th house, that represents like childhood wounds, right? Like, you know, one could even call it like a volcanic early home environment, like early childhood traumas that you know are seething beneath the surface, potentially having to do with like traumatic changes of home, just darkness when you look at the 4th house, right? And it's in Scorpio, the 4th house, so it's ruled by Mars, which is directly, once again, connecting your basically like whatever you went through early childhood. It's a direct connection. It's karmic and gets a direct connection to that house of relationships. So anything unresolved, it just has a complete connection, a complete tense connection with the Venus, and the ruler of it is also in that same house. So that can, you know, with Saturn there, it can definitely delay meaningful relationships, like the ones that like actually are healthy and that really work, until around this, like the age you are right now, the Saturn return. That's not to say you can have ever had like good relationships, but they're so tight, the Saturn in the Mars. And there's other, it's not just love that impacts. It's also very prominent in very successful people's charts to have Mars in aspects, like square, like conjunction, square opposition to Saturn. But yeah, back to like, you know, the Venus and Pluto energy. Really what that's doing is that it gives someone the experience of their own personal shadow through the arena, within the arena of partnerships. So when things get close, that's when you start to experience like what you may not have experienced or seen before, what you may have been able to hide, right? Because the Pisces is very, very good at kind of not feeling, I guess you could say, or escapism, right? But when you're in relationships, it's almost like there's nowhere to hide. That energy comes out. So there can be kind of some of like, you know, you probably know about Scorpio energy, like some of like the lower energy of Scorpio. There can be like obsessions, clinginess, like very like disorganized attachment when it comes to like the romantic relationships. And really it takes a lot of healing, right? But also it's very, very karmic. So it's like you know, it's not something that's meant to, one second, just getting some tea. It's not something that's meant to just like ruin your life. It's something that's present for a while. And I'm gonna pull up some notes about it real quick. But yeah, it really, like, in my experience with it, it made me act in ways that like I like didn't even like nothing like weird or bad, like stalking or anything like that. Like, not like that's like extremes of it, right? But okay, here's the perfect explanation. Basically, Venus has to do with self-love, right? So and people don't all know this. It's like your love language was also your self-love and what you value and how you value yourself. So as a Pisces, it can be difficult to have that, right? Because you have this fog over your self-image, especially with the Chiron on the Leo rising. It's like this big karmic mission, how to get the Leo to shine through, right? That fire, that Leo, that star energy, that fame, that person that you know has all the charisma and all the, you know, and no fears, and just as this leader. But with this, it can basically, until the real lessons are learned and you're really like okay with, you know what, I don't need anyone, like, you're like, not in a cynical way. You know how like some people are just like, I'm good, I want to be single forever, like, but they stay in a very cynical, like, kind of negative way. It's like in a very just like, you know what, like, if something good like in my love life does happen, cool, you know. But if it doesn't, I'm pretty stoked with like my life right now. I'm pretty stoked with like what I've created, like the structure that I've brought into my life, to the point to where, you know, if it comes good, if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So that is like a huge part, but also it so much has to do with like inner work, self-love, and yeah, going into your own shadow. I think for me, like, I'm not like huge on psychedelics, but I think the amount of times I did them was just the perfect amount. Not that many, and I haven't done them in years, but I do have a lot of respect for them. And I did like lots of like, you know, therapy, and I talk all about it in my book. Like, I had a long, crazy experience with like really like having some experiences that not many people have, right? That forced me to like really change and grow really, really fast, and near death experiences and stuff. But basically, it's like you'll attract with this aspect, you'll attract. I'm guessing, I have no idea if you're straight. I have no idea. I purposely don't look at any photos or anything about the client. So regardless, it doesn't even matter, like, if you're straight or not. But the whole point is that you'll attract very dark Plutonian, like, I don't want to say shady or evil, but like these very scorpionic, kind of like mysterious, like in my case it was like very like intriguing, like sexy girls, but they were very like fucked up, you know. And that was the pattern with the Venus square Pluto, is that I would attract that, and I'd be more interested in those girls than I would the girls that were maybe better for me, but like not as fun, you know. Where there wasn't the drama. It's like almost becoming addicted to drama. And when you don't have the self-love, you can really allow, like, my one of my best friends, Mia, she has this, and it's even closer than yours. It's like literally 0.00. It's exact. And she is an amazing person, but she just like has like always the worst guys, like the worst boyfriends, and she just like keeps getting sucked in. They're like literally psycho fucking guys, right? And like, it's like there's nothing you can really tell her, because you know it's like her journey. It's the only person that can save herself is her. You can tell her a million times, like, look, this is your pattern, this is what the astrology says, this is like how it shows up in your life. But until she actually makes that decision, like, I'm just gonna like not, you know, talk to any of these guys. I'm just gonna focus on myself. And when people say focus on themselves, it's like, that's another one of the ones you got to be careful for, you know, because like, focus on yourself, but you are a Pisces, you know, you are a Pisces. So it's like being open. Pisces is about like going with the flow in life, and trusting that when you're manifesting the highest energy of this chart, that God is going to give you, the divine, the universe, whatever you call it, is going to give you what you need when you need it, who you need when you need it. And that's a huge thing, is like getting past, seeing, understanding the difference between needs and wants, right? That's massive. But yeah, more with this square. So that the real underlying psychological aspect of it is that you tend to unconsciously, in ways that are very hard to understand, like experience like the childhood traumas in the relationships. And it's just like, so it can be very unbalancing. It can be very it can make one, like I used to experience it like way a long time ago. It's like, yeah, kind of like obsession, like where like I couldn't like really I couldn't function if things weren't going well with, like, I think like my first serious girlfriend, like it was the most toxic relationship. Thanks. And yeah, just like obsession, clinginess, a super clingy, and yeah, just allowing that to just allowing oneself to like be like, as opposed to this like solid rock that's like in like I always like imagine, like, you want to be like a little pebble when there's any wind or any water that just like throws you over and you just like at the mercy of whatever happens, or this big immovable rock, right? That's like the basic mission of what your chart's asking you for with the North Node where it is, right? It's asking you to really like, my cat's bring like a dog. He's bringing me this ball to throw down. But yeah, it's asking you to get in the physical and to take these lessons, as I was saying before, to take these like past life lessons of mysticism and humility and humanitarianism and all these things, and channel into a very like, in a way, but also being your own boss and stuff like that. Not just like in the sense of like the fact that you're midheavens and Aries, and you are probably going to be someone who's very entrepreneurial and probably not like like really work for someone else, which other parts of your chart indicate too. But yeah, also just getting with the earth, whether it's like doing like some Kundalini yoga, like maybe the same things for me would work for you. I don't know, but who knows? Maybe you're like at a very high place. Like literally, I say the same stuff for readings. Like I would say the exact same thing if you were 2 years old, if you were 70. Like I literally just I say the same thing. Maybe you like cats too. I don't know. One of three. FedEx, give me the ball. So yeah. Okay. So that's kind of the overall energy. Let's see if I so it complicates your close relationships because of the intensity of your feelings, not your general mood and feelings, but how you feel and show love and affection. When you become attracted to someone, this intensity can show as infatuation or even stalking. You simply fall deeply in love, but sometimes your behavior can be threatening or overbearing to others, especially while you are young, right? Because it gets easier with age. So, okay, blah, blah, blah. So with age comes the ability to hide negative behaviors, but to have your goals for true mutual love fulfilled, you must transform, not hide these destructive behaviors. These negative behaviors mainly center around getting total control of the relationship. That's the part I pushed away. It's about trying to control the relationship so that you need to not feel insecure, worried it might end. This can result in manipulative behaviors like jealousy, guilt trips, or possessiveness. So I'm going to reread that part. These negative behaviors mainly center around getting total control of the relationship so you need to not feel insecure or worried that it might end. So it's like this deep fear, right? Which is linked to the childhood trauma, right? That, it's almost like a link between, like, if there's like abandonment or something like that, there's like a link between that and the relationship. Yeah, so it's like really, really like there's a direct link between like you getting past whatever issues arose during childhood trauma, mini traumas, whatever. Direct link between that and relationships. So using your power to force someone to love you will ultimately end in a breakup, which of course would be extremely painful and traumatic. But it's only through such intense relationships that you gain self-awareness of your manipulative or controlling behaviors. Then you can use your immense power to positively transform how you give and receive love. right? So that's very interesting. This process may be painful because you will come to realize that self-love is the real issue, as I said before. Once you learn how to really love yourself, then the unconditional love and approval you seek will be at hand. Before you reach the realization of the need for self-love, you may be, as I was saying before, attracted to dangerous partners or those who treat you badly. You may actually be attracting such types subconsciously because of your poor self-image, which goes right back to the Pisces part. Self-image is so hard. So how do you gain power? How do you understand yourself deeper? Astrology is a perfect thing. Psychology. Astrology is magical for someone with your chart. I mean, because it opens up all the doors. Like everything in your chart is connected to it, right? It's healing. It's eighth house energy. It's Aquarian. It's but it's not just astrology, but like some form of like deep occult, esoteric. I think it's all like something where you're able to like understand in with your moon in the ninth house. That's about how there's an emotional need to find higher truth, to find higher wisdom in this life, right? Which would also is connected like traveling to foreign places and traveling metaphorically, as I always say, metaphorically or physically. And let's see. Yeah, so definitely like loving to escape everyday life. So there might be something with like arts with the arts, or like very like a sensitive energy. Having like a positive creative outlet, whether it's whatever it is, it's very, very important, right? And you can definitely be someone that has lots of interests. And jack of all trades, master of one, or master of a few, or master of none, who knows? But yeah, definitely like an energy of someone who likes to pursue and go after what they're interested in. So here's the thing though. So speaking of going after, Mars, you have this conjunction with Saturn. And when those two come together, it's an energy where, and this is why your life's getting a lot easier at this point, especially like in relationships. Whenever there's so many setbacks, right? There's so many setbacks in romantic relationships, but just in general with Mars and Aquarius, that creates kind of an ingenious energy, someone who thinks outside the box, someone who is very humanitarian, who really wants to kind of like do things in their own way and not go by very, very anti-traditional. But with Saturn there, it makes it so like whatever efforts you have like to go forward in life, it's like there's a boulder in front of your path. They're restricted by Saturn, and Saturn's like, oh no, we're gonna make this harder for you. So it teaches you so much self-discipline, right? And you experience your first 29 and a half years going through this, right? Going through this intense self-discipline that you're needed, because you feel like every time you try to take a step forward, you get pulled back. But then around this age right now, it gets a lot easier. And suddenly that energy that used to pull you back stops pulling you back, and you're stuck or left with that amazing discipline. And that's why so many people who have this in their chart are very successful. Now, since it's in the seventh house of relationships, that energy would definitely apply to relationships. A lot of people that have seventh house Saturns, they tend to experience their best romantic relationships that also have potential to really, really last a long time after the Saturn return, or maybe even during the Saturn return, right? But there can definitely be like a fear of commitment in relationships too, right? And it can come from some childhood trauma, or something sensitive Pisces, where in some way having allowed yourself to be vulnerable led to some negative outcome. There can be that fear, or even like being overwhelmed by one-on-one relationships. But yeah, overall, like you learn, like one of the best teachers for you is your relationship. So it's just like continue to try, and being like a Venus, like myself, Venus and Mars in seventh house. I don't have Saturn there, but you're learning a lot. You're very relationship oriented. Now, Black Moon Lilith is also there. So you have these three conjunct: Black Moon Lilith, Mars, and Saturn. And then I'll show the chart again. Share screen. So yeah, in the 7th house, Mars. So Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius, right? That's actually adding some kind of darkness to that. And what I think that can be is, you know, some of the dark side of Aquarius is like detachment, right? It can be very detached, and you know, potentially, I always think of like in the sense of love life, like Aquarius can be the kind of like player energy. And I'm not saying that that's how you are, but you know, if it's connected to the Mars, and the Mars is connected to Saturn, so it's like, you know, it's quite restricted, right? And I think I've shown you enough the chart. Black Moon Lilith there, well, what can that do? I need to find one thing. Where is this thing? You know, it can have to do with like rejection, right? Like also, so it can kind of create an energy where you feel like you're being rejected by others, but really you're like rejecting, kind of like what I was saying before, like rejecting like friendships, but also like, you know, it's in the 7th house, relationships before they're given a chance. And I have this article somewhere. Let's see where it is. It breaks down each Black Moon Lilith placement, because Black Moon Lilith isn't a planet. It's like a calculation of the moon. Okay, apogee of the moon. Okay, so it's fear of powerlessness, which we talked about before. So fear of being powerless that leads to isolation. And this is not an energy you have, by the way. Black Moon Lilith is just an energy that is a potential when you're kind of at your low point, right? So fear of being powerless that leads to isolation, criticism for not being strong enough, and hiding our weaknesses to the world. The projection takes the form of having a strong judgment on people we deem weak. Ironically, this placement grants a great power that can be used to build people up or crush them. The person can either fear their powerlessness or the opposite, fear their own power. Integration comes from facing yourself and asking yourself of your use or refuse to use your own power. Practice self-reinforcement and stop yourself from neglecting yourself. Build people up every chance you get. Okay, so interesting stuff there. So yeah, like 7th house, it can also make one like really never satisfied when it comes to major relationships, right? Like really like standards that are super high. And it can also take the shape potentially of like fear of vulnerability, that then okay, I don't want to be vulnerable, I don't want to like risk heartbreak or whatever, so creates like huge expectations of like what that person has to be. And when they, of course, like can never meet that unrealistic, impossible to get to expectation, oh, they're not good enough, right? Also there can be like a potential like yeah, it really is about like the less than perfect mate, right? And also like okay, here's another download from this, is that it can make it really difficult, because this is just the energy of Venus in Aquarius and Mars in Aquarius, is that it doesn't like traditional relationships. So, and also it doesn't really like commitment, right? So it can make it really difficult to stay committed in a relationship, because you might only see like the dark side of the spouse, especially with the square at Pluto. So it can make it like really yeah, kind of like, oh, this person's not that good, and then, you know, leave for someone else or something like that, or not stay in a relationship. Because with the Aquarius energy, right, part of the shadow is that there's this need to escape, right? When you Venus and Aquarius, when they get in relationships, like they need tons of space, tons of freedom, right? They need to have, so in a lot of cases, like not live with a partner, or have times where they're able to like be on their own, be alone, and they need partners that understand that, right? And part partners and friends that understand that. So yeah, it's like seeking that real perfection in partners. And when it doesn't come through, maybe just becoming disinterested too early, not really giving them a fair chance. So yeah, that's kind of the connection I make with all that. And a lot of these self-defeating patterns, right? Because there could be someone that totally is good enough. It just needs more time. But with age, you start to kind of see that, and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna try to break this pattern, this cycle, right? So, what was I gonna say? Yeah, with Venus and Aquarius, you know, it's very like need tons of space. You can feel caged in relationships. So like really like, yeah, trying to figure out and learning how to communicate that you're probably not going to want the most white picket fence, whatever the fuck, like relationship. It's going to be like your own creation, like your own creativity is going to go into like fabricating what kind of relationship would work for you. You know, some people with this, they like what's it called, where you're non-monog, when you're hooking up with multiple partners. I don't know why I can't think of a fucking easy ass word. Polyamorous, stuff like that. Open relationships. Because like there's a level of detachment when it comes to love and sex and stuff like that. And it's not that there's not a care, it's just there's a level of coolness when it comes to that area of life. So once the Pluto square gets passed, it's very interesting. Because you can go from being like someone who is like very, very like obsessed and like having all those troubles I talked about before, to someone that's very like cool, you know, like I'm all right. I'm not like very unobsessed, almost like to the point where it's like you know, it can come off as almost like not caring or something like that, right? That's not the truth. So what else? With the great thing about Venus in the 7th house is that it does give you the ability, once you break past the Black and Lilith tendency, to see the beauty in intimate partners, and it makes one very relationship oriented. Makes one really want to have relationships that work, peaceful relationships that work. But yeah, they have to be unconventional and odd. They have to like, because you have this like Leo rising is also like the inner child, so you have to be in a relationship where that inner child is able to come out, right? And really a huge part of it is the intellectual connection. Not to say that you have to have someone who's like at the exact same level as you intellectually, or like interested in the exact same things, or at the exact same level of intellectualism, but at least someone who like thinks like you and who's interested in the things you're interested in, and who's willing to learn. Like people that have like charts like yours and mine, like we like to teach, you know, we like to kind of inform people about our things that we've learned, and have these very unconventional talks. So obviously it's very, very important to have someone who's very open-minded and who's very, very curious about the mysteries of life and the unseen and the esoteric, and you know, and even if they're not like a spiritual person, like to at least have that openness and the curiosity. Very, very important for them to be curious. So okay. So Mercury, you know, it is just trine Chiron, spring node. So you know, I would say like you know, you're able to really communicate. You might speak like foreign languages. A lot of people that have Mercury in 9th house, they're like interested in like foreign cultures, and they spend like lots of time like trying to learn about different cultures, different philosophies. So they really, really want to engage themselves with different types of people, like friends from all over the world, or just like all different parts of society, you know, different groups or different types of people. You know, you might have like very like a friend group that's like very masculine and this and that, and then like another friend group that's like way more spiritual. And also, yeah, you should message me. I have like there's a private group. It's like an invite only thing that just message me and I'll talk to you about it. It might be something of interest to you. I'm quite private with it though, but it's really fucking awesome. But yeah, so like I totally lost some train of thought. Yeah, with Mercury. So Mercury and Aries are they can be kind of like quick talkers, quick thinkers, very independent thinkers. So it goes really well with like your Aquarius energy, and you know they're very good at thinking up new ideas, getting flashes of intuition, and it's pushed into the ninth house. Like I said before, you really are, your mind is pushed towards finding that truth, getting to the higher realms of knowledge and philosophy, and you know, like meeting. I guess what I was trying to say before is meeting people with different worldviews, right? And really just like trying on different, like very open-minded, trying on different worldviews, seeing which one works the best for you. So it creates a very curious mind. And then it has a nice trine with Chiron, so you know you're able to really heal with the way you speak and the way you think. That's what that connection means. And also, you know, the trine with the ascendant, and square at the node. So that means like in a south node, you either like there's some skip step, and I believe that like maybe you didn't speak up enough. You didn't let your you didn't let your opinion and your truth be heard enough. Maybe it was, you know, it didn't conform. Maybe like there's a fear of not fitting in or something, but in this life you're really meant to speak that. And yeah, so it's a fiery way of speaking and going within the world. And your midheaven is in Aries too, in the ninth house. So you know you might have like a career connected with foreign cultures, like work for a company that's like you know, foreign, or work overseas, or explore different places. But you know, overall you want your career and your life's work to your dharma per se is connected to finding that truth. And in Aries, it creates someone who is not necessarily like they want a career that gives them a level of autonomy and independence, and leadership. They want to be a leader. They're not a follower, right? Especially when we look at other parts of your chart, like the Aquarius energy, it does not like to follow, right? It likes to be, it'd rather be like the odd one out. It'd rather make less money doing something it loves, that's passionate about, than a ton of money just like doing some bullshit that it doesn't care about, you know. It's not like, but then there's like the Leo part likes luxury, you know. So the Leo, so this is kind of like the interesting part of like Leo and Pisces, which are my two main signs. And you know, you obviously have your Leo rising and Pisces sun. Pisces is like the most it's super spiritual. It's very like, it doesn't care about flash or about the material. But then the Leo loves luxury, you know. And there's a little bit of ego to typical, you know, which is like healthy, right? I'm not saying like narcissism or anything like that. I mean, obviously Leo risings can be narcissistic, but like, you know, it's all on a spectrum, right? So there's a level of like wanting nice things and you know, wanting to be seen and loved by people and stuff, but that's just human. Yeah, also I want to say that before I move a little bit further into some of the career work stuff, is that Juno, you have the asteroid Juno conjunct your sun in Pisces. So basically, like, to me, that's gonna say that you're gonna really add a certain level of romance to you and to your persona and to who you are, and it makes relationships extremely important to your life purpose, marriage. But you're also like in a partner, like in a very, very you know, the one type partner. You're really looking for someone who is really interested in that growth that you're going through, like that emotional intensity and the kind of like the exploration of the depths and the death through birth transformation. And you'll also, in Pisces, you want to be at one with the world through your relationship, right? So you may really crave the highest romantic ideal within your relationship. And what it's pointing at is that like all these things are possible, but sometimes the Pisces can get stuck in their head with like these like images, right? Maybe it's from movies, maybe it's from their dreams, so there's like that thin line between like what's intuition and what's just like non-intuition, right? What is it, right? But they can kind of get so stuck in like the over idealization of like this happens and this happens, and they think they know exactly what like their life is going to be and like how it's going to play out, but like that's not how life is. So it's like a lot of people with this kind of energy, they have to really learn a lesson that nobody's perfect. It's impossible. Like you spend enough time with anyone in the world, no matter how good of a connection you have, or no matter how whatever, like eventually like you will see, unless you're like perfectly like just you're just perfect with yourself and whatever, eventually like you'll see imperfections to everyone, right? So it's about one of the big karmas is learning about that and being able to accept people for who they are and seeing the beauty and the good things, good parts. So yeah, aside from that, with some of this work stuff, the fact that you have Uranus and Neptune in the 6th house means that you're definitely not the kind of person. So even though like a big part of your karma is to kind of like be in that daily routine and to really be in Capricorn, like kind of like leave behind past life tendencies of escapism. I'm not saying through like drugs, like maybe it's just like it's like being like very, very mystical, very, very spiritual. But it's a quest for maturity, right? Where you're not dependent on other people. Because like past life in or South Node in, which is like the past life tendency in Cancer, can talk about like a tendency to be like clinging to other people, like and kind of burden other people with real or imagined emotional problems, and kind of expecting other people to take the parental role. So in this life, it's very much about you taking that role. And a lot of people with this, that they'll spend like a lot of people that have this type of configuration, they'll spend a lot of their time searching for a father figure, but the big lesson is that they have to kind of become their own father figure, right? And yeah, so it's big time about gaining like a respected place in the world. And yeah, it's about learning responsibility as well. North Node in the 6th house, right? So it's like learning about responsibility, letting go of the desire to escape into that fantasy world, and really developing the productive new lifestyle. So how that's channeled, that's up for discussion, right? But then when we have the Uranus and the Neptune there, that's energy. If Uranus, you're not going to want to have, you might have like very like right now it's 5:30 a.m. It's not even that late for me. And you might have like very unusual daily routine habits, but the key is like just making sure they work for you. And Neptune, and also it just makes it really difficult. You want to be very rebellious at your workplace. So like it can make it really, really, really fucking hard to have like a boss, unless the boss gives you tons of freedom. But the fact that your midheaven is ruled by the Mars in 7th house, it could indicate that you start a business or like work with like your spouse, your partner or something like that. But also 7th house represents like business partnerships too. So it could indicate like a massive karma where you're meant to like form these really important business partnerships that get way, way easier. Maybe one of them comes during the Saturn return period right now. Could definitely be something I see. Okay. I definitely see like a lot of financial luck in your chart. Jupiter's 2nd house, part of Fortune's 2nd house, and Jupiter in Virgo is you guys want like a strong desire to be of service. But there's once again, I wrote this post about perfectionism. I'm not sure if you saw that. I think I had Jupiter and Virgo in there because like there can really be this obsession with detailed perfection, and it's all about the 100 or 0 thing, right? Like if I don't get 100, I'm just going to give 0. And yeah, it's about learning to kind of accept, wherever your best is for that day. 1 second. So, okay. And that can also play out in relationships. Hold on, I'm going to pause for 1 second. Okay. Back. So yeah, with Jupiter in the second house, you can really be, you can, it's I always call it like a financial guardian angel. So I've had clients who have this, and I tell them about it, and they're like, yeah, like it's like I lose one job, I think, and I just never worry, and then I get a better one, like 2 weeks later or something. So, but it's very important to like understand that each day, to not put too much weight on having to be perfect. And I always talk about perfectionism like this, like you're grading your day from 0 to 100. Some days you're gonna get 60, some days you're gonna get 50, some days 70, some days 80, some days 100. Maybe back-to-back days 100, then the next day is like a 30. Always doing your best and being at peace with whatever your best is. That's super important. But overall, this energy, this Jupiter is super, super good because it links you to this North Node it's trying the North Node, right? So it's a very positive, benefic, optimistic energy that's really leading you towards fulfilling your destiny in this life. And your destiny, your North Node's pretty close to those planets of Uranus and Neptune, which makes me think that you're really meant to dive deep into spirituality in this lifetime. You're really meant to be kind of that different type of person, right? To like, even though you might seem to others like you're not, you are, right? I mean, you're a Pisces, right? So that's kind of the dilemma that me and you both live in is we have the mask of the Leo, right? But then 8th house Pisces is so fucking deep, right? It's so deep. So I'm curious, with where's Mercury? Yeah. So I imagine that like friend groups, right, would probably take on a lot of energy of you'd really like to be parts of groups, which is why I invited you to message me about mine that help expand your truth as well, right? With the 11th house ruler being in the 9th. So that's that. And yeah, definitely needing lots of space in relationships and eccentric kind of different types of relationships. And yeah, you can be like a spiritual conduit to like these like transpersonal energies. So it's just all about like figuring out a life that allows you to kind of be about them. Yeah, so Chiron the Leo, typically that's a difficult one. When you're Leo rising, your Chiron's in Leo, it's like that spirit of youth was like through whatever that Pluto is, could have been kind of shaken from you, right? That inner child, right? Leo rising wants to act childish. They want to be like fun and joyful and laugh and not take life too seriously and make other people laugh and just have fun. But Chiron in a fire sign like Leo, it can mean that very spirit could have been like shackled, broken down, and taken from you. And it's like in this life, it's like about how you can regain that. And people talk about inner child work, and it sounds so cheesy, like like those words together. I'm like very against like how like different new age terms. I don't know if you've heard my podcast with Trey, Jesse and Trey podcast, but we always are kind of like mocking some of these words. But like honestly, there's no other way to describe like what's needed here. Is the inner child work is so massive in your chart, getting in touch with the child version of you, because that's really the true essence and pure essence of who you are. And a lot of people in our society get led to believe that they need to grow up and they need to be a man. They need to become this like this stoic, responsible, never fucking like acting goofy type of person that has like these views that align with other people's. But it's like, that's not fucking you, The soul is the child version, right? because the child version is unedited. It's unconditioned by society. It just is. It's the instinct. That's why we tend to be very much like our moon signs when we're children, because our moon is our instinct. Yours is Aries. You're probably very Aries kid, but mixed with the Pisces, of course. You can't. The Pisces is so sensitive. It's so it's so tapped into universal energy. It's the dreamer. So you're probably the dreamer, but also the actor. But more with Pisces. Very important for you. I talked about the boundaries thing, right? Especially in relationships. Learning to say no. Learning that your path is going to be a lot different than most other people's path. And sometimes it's better to have, like, you know, I don't want to say no friends, but like a few true friends, and like a lot of friends that kind of you can't, if you can trust them, if they really see you for who you are, stuff like that. But Pisces need, what I was going to say is they need alone time. They need alone time. And it's not anything selfish. And this is a big lesson, right? Because in relationships, like my current girlfriend, she gets it, but she's the first girl I've ever been with who, like, finally someone that fucking gets it, is that it's not that you don't like the other person. It's that in order for you to feel like yourself, there's so much self-reflection within you, right? And that's such a need. It's not a want, it's a need. Self-reflection in space. Like, you might come up with your best ideas, your best, like, most optimistic like views of your life and all the stuff when you're alone, when you're in your own energy. So a very important thing for the Pisces is to understand, like, because they can take on shit from other people and think it's theirs, and then they get the shame. So it's to, like, for example, you're spending time with person A, you feel a little bit weird, you start to kind of internalize that feeling. I gotta go, or you leave, or whatever, you dip out. Then you're alone and start to feel into your energy, right? That's why meditation is so important, because it raises that level of self-awareness. And you start to feel in your energy, and you're like, oh shit, now I feel calm, now I feel fine. And then you go around person B, who's just like very chill, like they have like a very pure energy, and you feel more energized by them. Like, maybe when you're hearing me talk right now, I doubt that you feel drained by me. I mean, that would suck. That would mean I'm very bad at my job. But that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Is that there's people that energize you, and there's people that, and also we're not having like an exchange, you're just watching me, so it's very, very different. But yeah, so that's super important for the Pisces, right? Because they're way more affected by different little things that other people don't realize, right? They can be very, very affected by. And with the Aries moon, you can be very combative, and that's maybe something you overcome. Another thing about Aries moon, I always consider Aries moon as the spiritual warrior, like in the emotional spiritual warrior, that whenever anything, like, they can never get like even though Pisces can be kind of self-victimized, and there can be some, like, like some of those little parts of Pisces, like feeling bad for themselves, especially when young. But the Aries moon always gets back up. It's a tough ass energy. You cannot push and keep a Aries moon down. It just doesn't fucking work. But yeah, it all comes back to that Pluto. Just generally, it trines your sun also. So it's like, that's giving you tons of super, like, that's giving you like a superpower to actually, through, oh, this is beautiful, through your 8th house explorations of the unseen realms, the esoteric, whatever you want to call it, going really into what you're truly interested in, you can actually unlock a lot of your latent, like, potentially latent, like, skills and past life, energies. And it can also give you the key to unlock some of, like, the trauma without going to, let's say, a psychologist. Like, some people think like therapy, for example, like, not to knock it. I mean, I'm a fucking, therapist myself. I have 2 masters. I'm doing astrological therapy, but like, there's different roads to get to your destination. There's 5 different freeways to get to Los Angeles, I always say, right? It's like there's many different ways, and astrology can be so, like, for example, or whatever it is, if it's tarot, if it's any any kind of, like, learning about the esoteric mysticism, even religion, you know, whatever it is, connection, like through prayer, connection to God, gratitude, whatever it is, it can get you, it can actually like it's not like this, like the Pluto, the darkness is like so insurmountable you can never fucking beat it. Okay, so let's see. You know, Neptune in the sixth house definitely kind of makes coping with everyday life a little bit difficult, especially when it's like the monotonous, like blah 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 daily grind. That's like why you have to really lean into like that. You might like really like be very like a natural like psychologist dealing with like couples potentially. I could see that, but there's a million different things. This is like I would never say that professions is my specialty as an astrologer. That definitely has to come in a follow up because there's just too many possible potentials. Let's see here. So yeah, you know, with the Neptune sixth house person, they want to be of service through their profession. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. And with the Uranus, like I said, like a unusual approach to daily life. Yeah, I'm also curious what your relationship to pets is. Pets. Okay, because that can be great for Pisces, and especially cats. I mean, you have a similar chart to me, and I'm sure you know my. I don't want to say the word obsession because that's kind of implies like a level of neuroticism, but just extreme love and devotion for cats. That's a little bit intense, but you get the point. So yeah, definitely past life mysticism. You have that with the South Node in the 12th. Watch out for self-victimization also, and feeling like you can't do it because you can. You have powers in this lifetime. You just have to unlock them. You have to get through, heal that Leo, heal that inner child, go back and and heal take the steps. So another thing with a sixth house North Node is it has to do with like the steps, like the prayer, the meditation, the gratitude, like things that you schedule, right? Like the health, the foods you eat, the just like being very responsible for your own energy, your own physical energy. That's like takes on like a spiritual component, right? Your own energetic footprint. That's super, super important. Yeah. And vertex in the fifth house, getting close to being done with this. Vertex in the fifth in Sag, it's kind of once again saying your doorway, and wow, your vertex is very close to my moon. Interesting. It's kind of saying that you're once again, like your doorway to higher awareness is through this like exploration, through this exploration of truth and of higher truth, and everything linked to like kind of the traveling metaphorically and physically. So yeah, there can be like astral travel with this placement. Yeah, so it's really, really great. It's kind of like doubling down on the moon in the ninth house, and also the fact that in Sag in the fifth house, your doorway to higher awareness is through love. So whether that's children or also your own creativity can be like a doorway to higher awareness. It's very creative. I was gonna say superiorly creative placement, and you know how fucking creative Pisces are. Come on, the fucking say the connection Pisces have to music and the arts just goes without saying. That sensitivity, right? But yeah, also vertex is kind of like a second ascendant is a very interesting way to look at it. Obviously, you're a Leo rising, but it's like kind of the ascendant you take, like the mask you take in relationships. So in relationships, your vertex in Sag, you'll come off quite like adventurous, quite explorative. It brings maybe you're interested in partners from different cultures. and you're really this open-minded person that really just wants to learn, wants to grow. Like growth is super important in relationships. So unconventional relationships that are also like have their level of like intensity and growth and transformation. Watching out for over idealization, over perfectionism in them, and stuff like that, as everything I mentioned earlier. The Pluto square is Venus square Pluto is extremely important. The black moon Lilith on the Mars is really important. Like kind of just like no one like, and also just getting past, like I don't know. So like I've talked to so many like people that have similar charts where they're like they kind of almost keep themselves away from like potential good like amazing relationships because they're not willing to go into them and try them out and take the risks, because they have this like image of like the perfect person, but then it's like, what is that image? What is that image? Is it based in truth, or is it kind of made up? Anyways, okay, so let's do this. Should I flash the chart? Yeah, why not? Okay, so let's just see. So yeah, here we have a lot of asteroids. Okay, wow, you have Hermes, the asteroid Hermes conjunct your Mars. So that is another massive indicator of Hermes is Mercury, right? It's like, the teacher of all, whether it's astrology, mathematics, geometry, it goes on and on and on. So Hermes conjunct Mars is going to give you this very, very initiative, like you're going to really want to be initiated into the secrets of higher learning and ultimately like what real truth is, like really getting to the bottom of ultimate truth. It's another huge influence there. So then, okay. Let's see. I'm looking for very close conjunctions, mostly of inner planets. Unless it's like, okay. Okay, now let's check Jesse 2. Okay. So not much coming up so far. I'll go back to Jesse 1 and see if there's anything in midheaven. Nope. Okay. Just see if there's any of these. Yeah, so like the Jupiter, you'll be very, very interested in like understanding, like I think psychology and just getting, you have so many like indicators in your chart of just like getting deep. Like you have Psyche like conjunct Jupiter, which obviously relates to the psyche and understanding like the true, the depths, right? It's like the ocean, like you're really wanting to get to the bottom of the ocean of knowledge, really understand things super, super deeply. Oh, okay, what's this? No, it's literally Juno. Wow, Juno's from, okay, Valentine. Fuck Valentine. I guess that would be like very romantic energy. On the sun. Still nothing close enough to the moon. It's not within 2 degrees. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to my face. All right, so yeah, I mean, this feels very complete. Very interesting reading. Never have had one that was so similar to mine. I had to really block out like my own life to some extent, but then also like where, you know, where I felt like it was relevant. So it'll be really interesting to speak to you live, and I look forward to that. Besides that, I'm gonna get this loaded up right now. I hope you have a great day. I hope this reading was everything you wanted. We're at like a minute, what? An hour, an hour. Thank God. I've been doing my readings way too long lately. I prefer to not have 2-hour readings. I prefer to have them be, yeah, this is like perfect. This probably be like what, a little bit over an hour 20. It's still long, but yeah, I think this reading was just easy for me because I just like knew everything. I barely looked at any notes. Cool. All right. Thanks so much and speak soon. Ciao, ciao.